Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to this week's 30-minute workout. My name is Dana Judge, and I'm an infrastructure technical specialist here at Autodesk with a focus on the transportation market. I am joined today by my colleague, Jeff Bartles, and our other colleague, Jerry Bartles, is still enjoying that well-deserved time off. I have to say, I'm quite jealous, but I do hope he's enjoying his time. Our session today is called Working with GIS Data. If you're new to our 30-minute workouts, this is something that was put together from comments we've heard from civil infrastructure users using Civil 3D, Map 3D, and AutoCAD. I'm sure you've all been in a class with one or all of these products. And you know there's never enough time to cover everything about the tools. Typically, what's covered is a targeted workflow for your group or division. You're given the need-to-know information about how to get your job done, and I do apologize for my dogs barking in the background. And then when the class is over, hopefully you're utilizing the tool immediately. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Dog is outside. Hopefully we will not get interrupted again. So you're given the need to know information about how to get your job done. Then when the class is over, hopefully you're utilizing the tool immediately. So you remember all of those great tips and tricks you've learned. Otherwise, you may be trying to relearn how to get through the workflows when you start a new project. Once you start working with our product, you then start to learn the tools, the shortcuts, and other tricks on your own or by watching how others use the product. For some of us, there's a career of shortcuts and tricks that can help streamline some of the workflows. That's why we're here today, to share some of those shortcuts, tips, and tricks. These 30-minute workout sessions were put together to address some of the lesser known, lesser talked about tools. We'll be walking through one of those tools today. This gives us an opportunity to demonstrate live the product and potentially show you something new. Many of the examples shown today will be a bit different than past sessions. We'll be walking through GIS workflows. They are somewhat abstract, but can be applied at any scale. With the right information, these practices can be transferred to any site in any location. With these sessions, we're trying to provide even more value to your Autodesk investment. Our premise with these sessions is to start on time and end on time because we value your time. We hope that these 30 minutes every 2 weeks are valuable to you. Sessions are always recorded, and if you register for the session, you'll receive a document with a hyperlink to be able to watch the session online. You'll also be able to download the session if you'd like to keep it for future reference. You'll see a Q&A pane where you can ask questions during the session. Jeff will be answering those questions as we go along. If there's questions that we are not able to answer live, we have your contact information and we can reach out to you after and make sure that that question gets answered. Likewise, if there's any item that you would like additional information on, we would gladly do follow-up calls to discuss anything you have seen today. Let's talk a little bit about the agenda. First, we're going to look and do an introduction to GIS data. We're going to talk about importing that data. We're going to talk about the difference between Civil 3D objects and AutoCAD objects. We're going to go through some publishing and sharing and consuming ArcGIS online data. We're going to talk about what a file geodatabase is and how we're able to utilize that now within Civil 3D. We're going to also talk about the map cleanup tools, which are a not very well-known tool that is very helpful when you're trying to process your data and make sure that it is clean and ready to be shared. And then also, if I do have time, because I tend to talk very fast, and hopefully if we do have time, we do have some bonus content potentially that we can talk about. With that, we are in our PowerPoint free zone. So I'm going to drop out of PowerPoint and get started. I will be working in Civil 3D 2021 for our presentation today. I'm going to be switching between the planning and analysis workspace and the Civil 3D workspace. And also, I am going to be showing you some things within just some data from online that you will be able to see, just to give us a little bit of idea of what we're talking about here. So let's start with GIS data. A geographical information system is really a conceptualized framework that provides us the ability to capture and analyze spatial and geographic data. There's many types of data that can be studied across the landscape. In civil infrastructure, we typically deal with physical geography or the natural sciences. In other words, we look at the natural environment. We take the real world GIS data, such as imagery, topography, land cover, soils, wetlands, parcels, and any other possible feature, and we place those features on a map or into our drawing. This USGS visualization is really great when you're trying to think of data layers and the information that we're getting from a geographic information system. Typically, they're broken out into these data layers, but we have the ability to download the data and combine it all into our map or our Civil 3D drawing. So now that we know what GIS data is, we can look at the types of data and how we can find this. I have a few good resources, but a quick Google search will allow you to find some really good maps and really good data that's out there for free. So here, the USGS has what they call the national map, right? So if we come out to the national map and hear about doing things live, hopefully all of these things will resolve. I am able to come in here and search a location, refresh, let's try this one more time. Anyway, if you come in here, it is very nice when it actually resolves. Again, doing things live, this is wonderful. But anyway, it allows you to search by location and you can view the data that's available, right? So you can see the data sets, you can see what type of format it's. It just allows you to download that data and then you can bring that into your Civil 3D drawing. And I may go back to that one. Here, we can look at the USDA soil surveys. If we come here and we start the soil surveys map, you can see the different information. You can do an area of interest. I come over here to New Hampshire. We can look at the soil data that's available for New Hampshire, and then we can download that data. Once you've put in your area of interest, you can see what's available. You can download it by town, you can download it by county. And then, let's see, if we also look at Esri has an open data hub. And this will allow you to look at the Living Atlas and see what imagery is available for the location that you're looking at. So again, if I come in and I search the Living Atlas for Barrington, New Hampshire, we can look at the content types, come into all, actually, let me just see. Okay, so here, if we come in, we can look, and this is data that you can go and you can see that this is Barrington, New Hampshire, the town that I live in, and you can get that data, and then you are able to look at the different information that is available for that area. So obviously this is not going as smoothly as planned, but if you look at the content, you can see that you'll see what's available for that area. And some other good information can be found for many cities and counties across the country. Denver has this awesome open data catalog where you can get all of the sanitary and the stormwater information that you can bring into your GIS map, which is fantastic because it's free. They obviously have all the disclaimers that you should survey it first, but if you're trying to do things for planning and for layout purposes, being able to have this data accessible and bring into your drawings is extremely helpful before you get to that point where you're actually going out for a survey data. I'm going to start on the New Hampshire Granite site, which again is another statewide GIS clearinghouse. You can come in here and find it. They have maps that you can look at, but for our purposes, I wanted to download data. So I would come here and go to data download. And here I can do the data discovery tool. And then we can look at a keyword. So I wanted to get the roads for New Hampshire. And if I hit search, it's going to come up with, I hope, a shapefile for all of the public roads in the state of New Hampshire. It is a shapefile. Not all formats are shapefiles. We have some geotiffs and some other different types that you can download. For purposes of this, I just wanted to show you and download the shape formats. So now that we've figured out what the data is, some places where you can get the data, I have downloaded our road data. And so now we're going to jump into Civil 3D. And we are going to look at how we can get that data into our drawing. So if I come up and I switch to my Planning and Analysis tab, and I come to Insert, I can do a map import. For those of you that, and here you can see my shapefile. For those of you that do not necessarily want to see that or go that avenue, we can come up to Civil 3D and we can also type map import, which will bring up the same dialog box. So from here, I'm just going to double click on our shapefile, and I'm going to, my drawing is already set to the correct coordinate system because of my template. And from here, I'm going to just check my data and make sure that I want to create the object data, and I want to do the roads, and I also want to do, if possible, the street names. And again, this is one of the problems about doing this live. I do have a drawing, but I really wanted to be able to show you. I have cut out a lot of the roads from when I did it initially, and I just wanted you to see the whole information that's here and some ways that you can check. So obviously, if anybody knows what the state of New Hampshire looks like, we can see that this is actually the state of New Hampshire. But so from here, an interesting thing we can do is we can turn on the aerial map, and we can see and look at some features that, you can say, okay, there's Lake Winnipesaukee, everything lines up. And if you're like me and enjoys looking at this stuff, I notice all of these open areas, which are the White Mountain National Forest. But either way, you see now that we have imported all of this amazing data. We can now start trying to figure out our location. So I am zooming. I'm actually just going to close this one because I don't want to bog down the system too much, and I want to make sure that we have enough bandwidth to do this. So from here, really what this is I just cut out all of the rest of my data because I knew where I wanted to be on my site. And so I come in here and I zoom in here, and we have this little plot here. And so really what we're doing, this obviously we can see that has the road information that was from our original file. And I've just put in the roads DOT, and actually the information or the data for the street did not come through with that. So that information was probably not in the original shapefile data. So with this, I've put in some Civil 3D lines, some polylines, and now we're really getting into more of the civil objects versus AutoCAD objects. So when we think about these things, we know that Civil 3D has, feature lines, pipe networks, alignments, parcels, and items that AutoCAD is not generally aware of. So when we're talking about doing these objects or doing these imports and exports, we have the differences between Civil 3D data and AutoCAD data. And when we're talking about exporting, if we're doing this through any kind of imports and exports, if we do Civil 3D data, we have to do it through the manage or the output tab and then publish to ArcGIS, or we're exporting to shapefile. And then they will come through as actual COGO points, alignments, feature lines, networks, and parcels. With the AutoCAD data, that winds up becoming a separate command when you publish to shapefile or you publish to ArcGIS, and those are not necessarily smart objects like Civil 3D objects are. And then if we zoom in a bit I have some extra data that is up here, and if we zoom in a bit, this will show you a little bit about the extended data that you can, or the attributes that you can put on some of these objects. So if we look here, there's associated photos that we can put on. There are different point information of where it is. We can say where the shapefile information came from, what kind of feature it is, and all of these different items that we can look at for, you just look at these ones. So then here again, we have all this extended data, and we can define what extended data is actually pushed out with the objects. So let's actually talk about let's move on to the next part of this, of what we're trying to do here. And so if we come and zoom back out, so we can look at this data. So I have parcels, I have, you can see a surface, I have an alignment, here is a structure, here's a little wetland area, that's a feature line. I have some good old COGO points. And if I come back here, you can see the COGO points and parcels, which wind up being polygons. And really what I want to do is publish this data to ArcGIS. And so if I hide my controls again, so really what I want to do is publish to GIS. Here, it's asking you just where you want to connect to. You can either connect to a database that, a different portal than you have, or you can connect to this ArcGIS database. I'm just going to connect to here and publish my objects. I'm just going to select them all, You can pick from the drawing, and you can also just select specific things that you want to export. And then it's going to ask me for my area of interest. This should generally fall in relation to your map, and then you should be able to, and because it's really seeing where your coordinate system is, and it's looking at where your data is. And then if you select next, here is where we make sure that the points they correspond between our category and our layer. So the alignments are alignments, and they're feature lines, parcels, pipes, and structures. And here we're just giving it a name. And then we have to add at least one tag. And let's see, because you have to have a unique name, and I've probably done this way too many times. So let's see if I can find a unique name. And look at the advanced setting. It just wants you to know if you want them to be editable and what you want editors to be able to do, where you want to publish it with, and there. And then we hit next. Where am I going to publish it to? This would show for your content, or it would show to a enterprise database or some other database. If in the beginning you had connected to another database, it would show that there. And now I'm just going to quickly, and actually once this finishes, we will open it from here. And here I can view in ArcGIS. And you can see, if I look here, here is all of the data that was defined. And you can see that this is the feature line of the wetlands area. And then this is our pipe, that was our drainage pipe. We have our points. And then I even brought in, because I did not differentiate, our AutoCAD objects, or our Civil 3D objects over here, and it did not bring in and publish the AutoCAD objects, because those would have to be done from map import or map export and then brought into our view here, or our map here in ArcGIS. All right, so quickly jumping back, what I wanted to show, one other thing, is how you would actually get your data in once you had published it, and how, so say you wanted to share this with somebody and they wanted to bring it into their drawing or connect to a database that you have published. So if we come to the manage, so if you come to insert Autodesk Arc connector for ArcGIS, and if you're looking at your area of interest, that is pretty good for my area of interest. I'll just kind of make it a little bit closer, right? And then if I come to my content, I can see the data that I have just published, or I can see other data that I published. And then I can select the feature type. So this is a gravity pipe. This is a parcel. This will be an alignment. This is going to be a COGO point, feature lines, and then a structure. And then I can add this to my design file. And this is asking me about the schema and additional data. If I wanted to add additional data to my structures, like rim elevations or depths or those types of things, I could add that. And then as you can see, it has brought in that GIS data, and it is all parcel segments. And these are feature lines as they were in our GIS, our ArcGIS model or view. So with that being said, I'm going to start talking about some different things that we can do now with this data that or some constraints that were before with exporting to GIS data, and now some different changes. So right now we can export to shapefiles, we can export to SDF, and now we can export to a file geodatabase. What is a geodatabase? So it's really a container that allows you to hold a collection of data sets. So when we went up to, say, that granite site and we saw the shapefile for the roads, if we had roads, buildings, and say, you know, drainage structures or wetlands areas, and all three of those were separate shapefiles, so separate data layers. We could export to a file geodatabase and have those all be in one database or one container so that you could export them all together. And so if we go to the Output tab and look here on the export, we see this export to file geodatabase. And then again, what it's asking you is what objects would you like to export? Select them all. And then you can just export them. It's asking you what type of geodatabase that you want to export it to, and then you just hit save. And in previous releases, we could only connect to a personal database. So one issue that's always been realized is that these databases do not recognize ARCs. They'll tessellate that ARC for visual fidelity. Today, we can export to a file geodatabase from Civil 3D, which will now recognize and display those ARCs. One limitation to this is that we cannot write to an enterprise geodatabase at this time. In the future, you never know. One last thing I want to talk about quickly, as I see that we're coming close to time, is the map cleanup tool. This is a function that's included with Civil 3D. It's very handy when you're preparing your data for sharing it and putting it up, or sharing it, whether it's through ArcGIS or whether it's with consultants, and depending if you've received information from consultants, you're not really sure if we duplicated information when we were working on the drawings. So we just want to run this map cleanup tool. So from the map planning and analysis workspace, if we go to the tools tab and then the map edit panel, and then we can do drawing cleanup. And just for, obviously, there's a million ways to do everything in AutoCAD. I'll come back to Civil 3D, and we can just type _map clean, which will give us the same thing. First, we can select the objects to clean. I've selected them all, as you can, but you can set them manually, and you can also do them, you can do specific layers. So once we come through here, here are some different things that you can, what your actions will be. Some really great ones are delete duplicates, break crossing objects, zero length objects, and weeding polylines. So I'm just going to add those. And then we will hit next. So delete duplicates is good for cleaning drawings from other firms, and it allows you to ensure that no one duplicated objects. Breaking the crossing objects helps with pesky polylines, or if you're having problems with feature lines, explode them back to a polyline and run this tool. It will find any cases where the polyline may have crossed back on itself, or whether it has duplicate lines on it, and it'll erase those. So the zero length objects, it cleans out some little objects that are hard to find. I know that I had some little objects when I was initially doing this, because I would zoom extents and everything would go away. Weeding polylines. We have other ways to accomplish this, but this definitely is a very good resource tool. So one thing to add in here, if we go back a little bit, is all of these actions run linearly. So the order that they're here in is how they will get run. So if you really want to weed your polylines and you don't want that to be the last action, you can just move that up, and then it'll weed the polylines, and then it'll delete the duplicates, and so on and so on. So then if we finish, this tool has just run. So it will, it appears at first glance that the tool may not be working. So this should be something you need to be aware of when using the tool, but it is cleaning up all of the duplicates that are there. And with that, that is the rest of my presentation, and I finished only 2 minutes early. Jeff, are there any questions that I may need to answer?
I am all caught up on this end. I do have a quick question though,
Yes.
Off topic. What's your dog's name?
That was George, and
Okay.
He is a red golden retriever that does not realize that he should not interrupt.
He just wants to participate.
Exactly.
No, but we're all good on this end.
Okay, well, thank you everyone. I hope this was helpful, and I hope this was beneficial for you. I do apologize for the interruptions. And if you have any questions on anything that I have shown today, please feel free to reach out to me. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.